Welcome to another After Effects tutorial. Today we're going to have a look at creating some visual effects. Specifically, we're going to create some demon eyes. So here's the example. Alright, pretty cool. Now this is a very flexible technique and you can use it to create different sorts of effects. For example, we might decide to go with something a bit more superhero-ish, something like you might see in X-Men, for example. So you could do this. So really there's no limit to what you could use this for. Some other examples. For a sunny day. Or something a bit punk. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Now the original video file looks like this. Now that file I'll make available to download so that you can play along with this tutorial if you like to. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I have a blank After Effects composition here. And all I've done is import my footage. So I'm going to grab the file and I'll drag it into this third icon that looks like a film strip and I'll let go. So what this does is just create a composition that's exactly the same size and length as your original video. Okay, so to get started we're going to go Layer, New, Null Object. Okay, and a Null Object is basically just a layer that you can apply data to. Okay, so Layer, New, Null Object. Okay, now I want to click back onto our video layer in your layers. Okay, now this whole technique basically relies on tracking motion. Okay, motion tracking basically is when you have one object and you track the motion of it, and then you can apply that motion to other layers as well. So that's how we're able to get the demon eyes to stay in place, or things like the sunglasses, or whatever else you choose to add to your video. Okay, so we're going to use a tool called the tracker, and if the tracker is not, if you can't see it in your window, just go up to Window, I'll just take it off, just go up to Window, Tracker, and then you'll see it on your screen. Okay, so we have two options here. We can either track motion or stabilize motion. Stabilize motion is very useful if you have some shaky footage and you want to stabilize it, and the technique is basically the same as track motion, but today we're going to use track motion. Okay, so just click that button. Okay, now you can see that we've got a track point 1 here, and that's the position if you look down at your tracker window. We want to record both the position and the rotation. So if you have some camera shake in your original file, then you want to do position and rotation. And you can see that that's added another track point, so we have 2 track points. Okay, at this point you want to decide what it is you're actually going to track in your video. Okay, now we want the eyes, but because in the original file, you know, the eyes close and they open, they move around a bit, I'm going to choose something else that we can track. And for this, I think we're going to, and I'll just zoom in a bit, I think we're going to try the nostrils. Okay, so if we, okay, so I think for this we're going to try the nostrils. Okay, so if you hover over your track point, and what you want to see is this crosshairs. See how if I move away, no crosshairs, but if I move into the tracker, you've got your crosshairs. So left click and drag, and we're just going to go for, we might just even just go for that middle. Okay, now you can see that we've got 2 squares. The one on the inside is the part that we want to track. So I'm just going to move that so that we can see a bit of the nostril but also a bit of the skin in there. And then the second rectangle is where it's going to look for that piece of footage. So move your other track point down, other nostril, and make the rectangle slightly bigger. Okay, so we've got our 2 track points there. Alright, and it's important that we're at the start of our footage, so just go to the start if you're not already. and then you want to hit the Analyze Forward button, and this is the under Analyze in your track window, it's the play button, so hit play. And you can see that it's tracking those 2 points that we've asked it to. And while it's tracking, you can kind of see if it's doing a good job or not, and it does look like it's doing a fairly reasonable job of tracking this, so we'll let it play through. Okay, now you can see all of these squiggly lines basically denotes the movement or the motion that's been tracked. Okay, so the last step in this is we need to apply it to this null layer. Okay, so we're going to put all of this motion data into this null layer. So if I just go over here, you can see motion target null 1, and you do want it to be null 1. If it wasn't, I could go edit target, and then you could just choose your layer. Okay, and I want to click apply, and it says X and Y, and that's fine, and hit OK. Alright, so that's what our motion tracked footage looks like. Now you can see this null 1 is that square there. Okay, and if I play it, so let's just play it, you can see that it's stuck in place where we've tracked. Okay, so that's great. That's exactly what we want. Alright, let's move on to the next step. Now to create the eyes, basically we're just going to have a black solid. So go up to Layer, New, Solid, and the color, we want to make that black. Go OK and OK. Alright, now just click the eyeball off on the black layer, so down in your Layers panel, just so that we can see the footage underneath. And we'll zoom in a bit, and you can just scroll on your scroll wheel. And we're going to have a look at this eye. So if we go up to the pen tool, so at the top toolbar, pen tool, and we're going to draw a quick shape around here. So left click and 1 point, left click and hold. If you hold it, you can actually draw a curve. Left click, curve, left click. Same process for the bottom. Okay, now if I turn back on the eyeball on that black solid, you can see that our mask, which is what we've created with the pen tool, is just around the eye. Okay, what we're going to do, if I just zoom out a bit and I click away, you can see that it's quite harsh, the edge here. So what we're going to do just to clean that up is we'll go down the black solid layer to the options and down the masks, and mask 1, and we want to feather it out. So mask feather, and we'll just move it along, say let's try 8 pixels and see what that looks like. Okay, good. So 8 pixels, and you can see that it's just given this softer edge to it, so it does help blend it in with our original footage much better. Alright, now if I move around, you can see that basically the original video footage is moving, but our eye is not. Okay, so what we want to do is make sure that it is. Alright, how we do that? Over in this layers panel, you can see that we have this pick whip. If you currently don't see that, your screen for instance might look like, you know, actually it's available on both windows, that's good. Alright, grab the pick whip on the black solid layer, and we're going to left click and drag to null 1, remembering that null 1 is the layer that contains all of our motion, and let go. Now if I play the footage, you can see that our black solid is staying perfectly on our footage, which is exactly what we want, so that's great. Alright, now while we're at it, let's just clean it up a bit. So black solid 1, I'll right click and I'll rename it. I'll just call that left eye. Okay. Now you can see that the issue here is that although it's tracked to our footage, we don't actually need the black eye there at the moment. So let's animate that. So we'll go to the point where the eye is pretty well fully open. Okay, so about there. Go down the left eye layer and down transform, and we want to animate. Actually, no, we want to animate the mask. So go down mask, and we want to animate the mask path. So let's click on the stopwatch. Okay, we'll zoom in a bit, and we'll go backwards in time. Okay, so when the eyes just start to open up, so maybe about there, and we're going to animate this mask, so the shape of that. So what we want to do is just move outside that layer and left click once, and then we're able to transform it. So get your various points and basically align them to the shape of that eye at that point in time. Okay, something like that. And if we move forward, you can see that that animates with the eye opening. Okay, we'll go back again to where it's closed. Actually, we'll go to that point there, and we want to go down transform and opacity, and left click on the stopwatch, and then move back one frame and take the opacity down to 0 so that we no longer see it. So if I play that now, I'll just click out so you can see it properly. You can see that our eye is animating as it opens. Now I could probably clean that up a little bit more, but I think for the moment that'll do. It's quite quick, but be as pedantic as you like. Alright, so we've got the left eye there. Now obviously we need a right eye. So let's left click on the left eye layer to select it and go edit, duplicate. So now we have 2 layers. And just click on the second layer and move it across to the other eye. And let's rename it while we're at it. So right click, rename, right eye. Right eye. Okay, now it's remembered all of our tracking and that sort of thing for the right eye, which is great. We probably do want to, I've called it right eye. Let's just change that. So what we want to do now is go down the mask again, and we'll just zoom in the timeline a bit. And basically we want to make sure that this right eye is shaped the same way as the eye underneath it. That's pretty close. Okay, we'll go back again to the previous keyframe. So I'm just moving it out of place so I can see what's underneath it, and then moving it back into place. Okay, something like that. Alright, we can actually see this eye opening a bit before the other one. So we'll go down here, the opacity, and we'll just bring that first layer back a little bit. Okay, and we might even need to just do one more keyframe with this. So I am getting a bit pedantic. Okay, something like that. So now if we play it, we have the beginnings of our demon eyes. Okay, very good. Now what also helps to sell this technique is thinking about the eyeball and thinking about it being reflective. And what we're going to do now is add some reflection into the eyes. Now we could draw things and that sort of thing, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use the original footage. So if I just take the eyeballs off our other layers for a moment, we can see that the original eye has this reflection in it. So why don't we just use that? So I'm going to click on the layer of the footage and I'll just again edit, duplicate. So we've got two layers. I'll grab the pen tool again and I'm just going to draw very roughly around the reflection. Okay, it doesn't visually look like anything has happened, but if I take the eyeball off on the bottom layer, you can see that what we've actually got is that reflection. Okay, let's put that layer, the reflection layer, at the very top, and we'll turn back on the other layers. So now you can see that what we have is the reflection there. Okay, now what we do need to do is just animate this slightly, because as you can see, if I move around, although the layer moves, the mask does not. Okay, so we do want to fix that. So let's just go again just to before the eyes open, actually while they're half open, and we'll go down that layer and again masks, mask 1, and we want to animate this mask path. So stopwatch, left click, move along. Okay, and basically we don't want to do this all for lots of keyframes, but we'll just go along, you know, say along three or four keyframes. We'll just move that mask back into position. I'm not going to be too perfect about it. I basically just want to make sure that the reflection is visible within that mask. Okay, and that should do it. If I play it back, you can see that it's roughly staying around that mask. Okay, now we're going to go through the same process to do the right eye. So again, bottom layer, we'll just go edit, duplicate, and we'll grab the pen tool and we'll just draw a mask around that reflection. Okay, and again, if we solo it, you can see that that's what we have. Okay, so let's animate that. We'll right click on it, actually let's rename it. Okay, right eye reflection. We'll put that at the top as well. Okay, let's animate that mask. So left click on the stopwatch. I'm just going backwards in time now, just moving that mask to match our reflection. Okay, let's turn on all the other layers. Okay, now you can see that we've got quite a harsh edge around both of our reflections, so let's fix that up. If you go down the layer for the left eye and down masks, and you've got mask feather, and we'll just feather that out, say 8 pixels. Okay, and we'll do the same with the right eye, so down masks and mask feather, 8 pixels. Okay, and that just gives it a much softer edge. So let's have a look at how we're going. Alright, now it's quite subtle, that effect, but it really is worthwhile doing because it does give that, you know, realistic feel of it actually being the eye. Okay. Alright, now there's no need to fade that, you know, the reflection in or anything, because all it is doing is if we go back and I just solid one of those layers, you can see it's just on the skin or wherever it is at that time. Okay, so that's the basics of getting the demon eye look done, a la Supernatural or 1,000 other supernatural films. The last thing I might do with this shot is just add some color correction, so let's go through that very quickly. If I go Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and an adjustment layer is just a layer that if you apply effects to it, it will affect everything below it. So they're really good for applying things like color correction. I'll go up to Effect, Color Correction, and I'm going to add 2 effects. So Color Correction Curves, and we'll go Effect, Color Correction, Tint. Okay, and we'll deal with Tint first. Tint, basically, you can see it at 100% setting will turn your footage black and white. If I tone that down, you can see that I'm introducing color back into it. Alright, so you can put this wherever you like. It just decreases some of the color saturation in your video. Sometimes, you know, a video can be a bit oversaturated, and this just helps give it a bit more of a film kind of look. And then in your curves up the top, just bring down the bottom a little bit and boost the top. Okay, just to give it a slight S curve in there. Again, I might just take out a little bit more color. Okay, now in your channel on your curves layer, go into where it says RGB and click on the red, and we're going to grab it at about the middle, left click, drag down, and we're just taking some of that red out, so it gives it a bit, you know, a bit more of a cooler kind of look, which might suit this sort of demon look we're going for. Alright, let's play back the file at that point. Okay, before we finish up, I might just very quickly go through what I did with the glowing eye example. So that's this one here. Basically, if we have a look at the project, I've got my adjustment layer, which is where I've got all of that color correction that we just did on the other version. I have a medium solid, and what this actually is it gives it the light, this reflection here on the skin. Whenever you've got, you know, live action footage that you're, you know, mixing with visual effects, it's always good if you can have, you know, some of the visual effects reacting with the environment. So in this case, we've got glowing orbs, so we'll have this mask as well. And all I've done is, like we did with the pupils, I created a solid layer, so I'll just go back to what it did look like. Okay, so this is what it originally looked like, just a solid, and all I did was go blending mode, add, alright, and then again mask feather, and just feathered out a whole lot, so about 100. Okay, and that just gives us this kind of glowing look. Alright, the other layers, light orb, so this, if I show you the original file, is just this animation of a light orb. Okay, and all I've done is put it in here. Again, pick whipped it to null 2 in this instance, and then animated it when her eyes are closed. I'll just go into that layer, see what I've done. Okay, I've animated the scale on this example, so to go from 0, so you can't see the orb, up to 100. Okay, and that's basically how to do that example. Alright, hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, hope you find it useful, and I'll see you next time.